Hey guys, it's Joanne again, and I'm going to do another robot painting today. Last week, if you saw my video, I'll put a link somewhere, whether below or if I can figure out how to put it up in the top, I'll put a link to it. But I did a robot painting where I was collaborating with the robot, and it ended up taking 5 hours. And there was an obvious issue in the code that whenever it placed a shape, it was potentially going to be covered up later on. So I was painting areas and fixing areas that ended up being covered up and not there at all. So this was the painting that I did. And throughout that video, I had a lot of ideas of how I was going to fix it. And it turned out to be really beneficial for me personally to talk about what things I wanted to improve, then edit the video and have to listen to myself talk about things I was going to improve, and then go edit the code because I had laser focus on what I wanted to fix. So it was pretty quick. And now I have some new code, and I've created a couple thousand different compositions, and I quickly chose these two to be sibling paintings to this one. Let's see if I can put it beside. Sorry, I'm backwards and mirrored to myself. So that will be the paintings that I'll do. I'll try one because right now, as I see them behind me on this video, they look very pink, but let's start from there and see how it works out. So for this painting, I start with a white wood panel, and I've taped the edge with green painter's tape to keep the border white, and I'm just mixing the paints now. I have two color palettes that I'm mixing together for this painting. Just setting up the robot, putting the brush in, and now letting it start to lay out the shapes. I left the background white for this one, just because the colors pop a little more if they're painted on white. And in this painting, I am working with the robot, so the robot lays out the shape and then I fill in the colors. I have tried in previous paintings getting the robot to layer multiple layers of paint to try to fill in the shape completely, and I haven't had much luck doing that, so I'm having much more fun, and it's a lot faster working alongside the robot and being the perfectionist I want to be, filling in the colors. Now, one thing about this setup that I hope to fix in future setups is the table that the robot is attached to doesn't allow my legs to go underneath, so I ended up really hurting my back doing this one because the total painting time was about 3 hours, and I was constantly twisting and bending over because I couldn't actually sit properly at the table. So usually when the robot is cleaning the paintbrush is when I'm doing most of my painting. Right now you can see I did quite a bit of painting before I hit go again on the robot. Now the robot has a round brush in it and I have a flat brush in my hand, so I'm better at making those tight corners, whereas the robot has a round edge, as you see in its layout. This allows it to paint in any direction, and it usually puts out the same shape stroke. Now this painting is taking half the time of the previous painting because I had to check when it's laying out a new shape that it doesn't cover previous shapes. However, the way it ended up working out is it still would end up happening that 3 shapes could cover a previous shape. So there are a couple shapes that did get completely covered. So I'm still thinking how to fix that code, and I'll try to fix it for the next one as well. Now, one of the things that happened in this painting that early on I actually pulled out my color palette book that I work from is those 2 sets of 5 colors are actually switched backwards to each other, and it ended up grabbing the wrong color, so it doesn't actually look like the way I thought it would turn out, and I just let the robot continue with the colors that I had placed rather than trying to undo the first few shapes. So I'm fairly quiet here because I'm just watching the process. It's quite similar to the previous painting that you've seen me do. Yellow in general takes a lot more layers of paint to be that bright, bold yellow color, especially when painted over top of dark reds. Likewise, the darkest red color in this painting is very transparent. So I also have an idea, I've written the code, but I didn't use it in this specific painting, where it checks, the code checks the recipe of the color, and if there's no white paint in the mixture, it won't choose that paint. And white tends to make the mixture of paint more opaque, and that makes it easier to layer. So some of these colors are very difficult to layer, usually the darkest colors as well as anything with red or yellow bases. I can really see my back hurting now just watching myself twisting. So now I'm pulling that white tape off, and there are the two paintings.